Part 1. The Homecoming. The rusty welcome to Harmony Creek sign creaked in the wind, a tired greeting to a town that time seemed to have forgotten. I hadn't been back in 5 years, not since I'd packed my bags and fled for the bright lights and fast pace of the city. 5 years since I escaped the suffocating small-town atmosphere, the relentless gossiping, and the never-ending expectations that weighed on me like a lead blanket. But Grandpa Joe was turning 80. A milestone too significant to ignore, a bond too strong to break. There was no way I was missing that. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the landscape as I drove down Main Street, past the familiar storefronts, Mrs. Higgins's bakery, the dusty antique shop, the hardware store where I used to buy penny candy with Grandpa Joe. Everything looked exactly the same, a comforting but also slightly unsettling snapshot of my past. I pulled into the driveway of his old Victorian house, its peeling paint and overgrown rose bushes whispering stories of bygone eras. The same house where he'd raised my mom, a strong, independent woman who had somehow managed to balance small-town life with big dreams. The same house where he'd taken me in after my dad died, offering a safe haven and a steady hand. The porch swing creaked in the gentle breeze, a familiar sound that tugged at my heartstrings, a nostalgic melody that evoked memories of lazy summer afternoons and whispered bedtime stories. I grabbed the cake I'd picked up at that fancy bakery in the city, a multi-layered masterpiece adorned with elaborate frosting flowers and shimmering edible glitter. It was probably overkill for Grandpa Joe, who usually preferred a simple slice of apple pie, but I wanted him to know how much I cared, how much I appreciated everything he had done for me. I wanted to make his 80th birthday unforgettable. When I pushed open the creaky front door, the air inside was thick with the scent of dust, mothballs, and old memories, a familiar aroma that both comforted and saddened me. The house felt still, quiet, unlike its usual self. "Grandpa," I called out, my voice echoing through the silent rooms. No answer. A wave of unease washed over me. He was usually puttering around in the garden or listening to his favorite jazz records in the living room. I followed the sound of soft, melancholic music drifting from the living room. It was a Billie Holiday tune, one of Grandpa Joe's favorites, but tonight it seemed sadder, more mournful. I pushed open the living room door, and that's when I saw him. My grandpa, my rock, my hero, the man who had always been my anchor in the storm, slumped in a wheelchair, his frail body supported by the cushions, his face pale and drawn, his eyes closed. A half-melted birthday cake sat untouched on the coffee table, its elaborate frosting flowers drooping like wilted hopes. And beside the cake, resting on a doily, was a single, crumpled note. It was his 80th birthday, but something was wrong. Part 2. The note. My heart lurched in my chest. Seeing Grandpa Joe in that state, his usually vibrant face drained of color, the birthday cake untouched, felt like a punch to the gut. And then I saw the note. It was small, crumpled, almost discarded, as if it had been hastily thrown down in a moment of desperation. The note was written in shaky, almost illegible handwriting, a scrawl that I recognized immediately as belonging to Aunt Ethel. She was my grandpa's younger sister, his only surviving sibling besides my mom. She'd always been a bit of a mystery, a woman of quiet independence and hidden depths. I picked it up, my fingers trembling, the paper feeling strangely fragile, as if it might crumble to dust at any moment. I smoothed out the crumpled paper, my eyes scanning the hastily scribbled words. The ink was a faded blue, the penmanship a clear indication of her distress. The words were few, but their weight was immeasurable. They read, "Joe, I can't do this anymore. You know why. I'm sorry. Joe, I can't do this anymore. You know why." The words echoed in my mind, each phrase a riddle, each sentence a cliffhanger. What did it mean? What couldn't she do anymore? Why was she sorry? And what did you know why refer to? What secret were they both carrying? My mind raced, desperately trying to make sense of the cryptic message. Grandpa Joe had always been fiercely independent, stubbornly refusing any help, even after his recent health scare. He'd always been the picture of stoicism, the stoic elder who had gotten me through the loss of my dad. Was this about his health? Had something happened? Had her care for him become too much? Was this a cry for help or a farewell? I quickly surveyed the room. Everything was in its place, meticulously arranged as always. The antique furniture, the faded floral curtains, the collection of porcelain figurines on the mantelpiece, all meticulously dusted and polished. But there was an unsettling stillness, an absence of the warmth and cheerfulness that usually filled Grandpa Joe's house. The air felt heavy, charged with a palpable sense of unease. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me from my thoughts. A text message from my mom. "Annie, honey, are you there yet? Did you get to see Grandpa Joe?" I quickly typed a response, forcing a smile into the words. "Yes, Mom. I just got here. Everything's fine. Be there shortly." I sent the message, but even as I pressed send, the words felt like a lie, a hollow facade. But deep down, I knew that everything was far from fine. Something was very, very wrong, and the unsettling feeling deepened. The note, the empty cake, Grandpa Joe's condition, the silence, they all pointed to a truth that was hidden, a secret that was threatening to unravel. The note had to contain the answer. Part 3. The interrogation. A wave of protectiveness washed over me, a fierce determination to shield Grandpa Joe from whatever darkness was looming over him. He looked so frail, so vulnerable, slumped in that wheelchair like a shadow of his former self. I knelt down beside him, gently taking his frail hand in mine. His skin was paper-thin, like delicate parchment, and his grip was weak, almost non-existent. I could feel the tremor in his hand, a subtle vibration that spoke of frailty and unspoken anxieties. His knuckles were knobbly and calloused, a testament to a life of hard work and unwavering dedication. "Grandpa," I said softly, my voice filled with a mixture of concern and affection. "What happened? Where's Aunt Ethel? Why did she leave that note?" I tried to inject a sense of calm into my voice, but the underlying tremor of panic was impossible to conceal. He blinked slowly, his eyelids heavy, his eyes unfocused, as if he were struggling to see me, struggling to connect with the present. He seemed lost in a haze of pain, confusion, and exhaustion. "Ethel's gone, sweetie," he whispered, his voice a mere breath, raspy and strained, like the rustling of dry leaves. She had to leave. Something came up. But why? Where did she go?" I pressed gently, squeezing his hand for reassurance, trying to keep the mounting panic from my voice. "It's your 80th birthday, Grandpa. She wouldn't just leave without saying goodbye, without telling you why." He looked away, his gaze lost in the distance, his eyes fixed on some unseen point beyond the walls of the living room. He seemed to be looking back in time. The lines on his face deepened, etched by years of laughter, loss, and unspoken burdens. It's complicated, Annie," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "Family stuff. Don't worry your pretty little head about it." He spoke with a sense of weariness and finality, as if trying to shut down the conversation, to protect me from something he believed I shouldn't know. Complicated? That wasn't like Grandpa Joe. He was always straightforward, honest to a fault, a man of unwavering principles. Something was definitely being hidden, carefully concealed beneath a veil of carefully chosen words. I tried a different approach, appealing to his sense of fairness, his sense of right and wrong. "Grandpa, it's your birthday. We're supposed to be celebrating. We're supposed to be laughing and telling stories and eating cake. But I can't celebrate if I know something's wrong. I can't pretend everything is okay if something is wrong. I need to know. Ethel is family." He sighed, a long drawn-out sound filled with weariness and resignation. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering his strength, and when he opened them again, there was a flicker of something in their depths, a hint of vulnerability, a glimpse of a hidden pain. "Ethel, she found out something she didn't want to know," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Something about the past. Something that changed everything." He chose each word carefully, deliberately, as if walking on eggshells, afraid to reveal too much. "The past? What past?" Our family history was as plain as apple pie, as wholesome as homemade lemonade. Or so I thought. But now I realized that I knew nothing. The past was where the answers lay. Part 4. The Discovery. Driven by a growing sense of urgency, a burning need to uncover the truth, I decided to do some investigating of my own. I couldn't rely on Grandpa Joe to tell me everything. He was too frail, too burdened by whatever secret he was carrying. I knew Aunt Ethel had always been the keeper of family secrets, the one who held on to old letters, photos, and mementos, the guardian of our family's history. I started with her room, a small, cluttered space that smelled of lavender and dust, a world suspended in time. It was a sanctuary of antique furniture, faded floral wallpaper, and knickknacks collected over a lifetime. I carefully sifted through her belongings, searching for anything that might shed light on her sudden departure and the something she had discovered about the past. I started with the drawers. Each one was filled with neatly folded clothes, old photographs, and carefully preserved mementos from her life. A faded dance card from a high school prom, a dried corsage from a long-ago anniversary, a collection of postcards from exotic locations, each item a silent testament to a life lived, a story untold. Then I moved on to the closets. They were stuffed with old dresses, coats, and hats, many of which she hadn't worn in years. The scent of mothballs hung heavy in the air, a pungent reminder of the passage of time. The air hung heavy with dust. I rifled through the trunks, sifting through old photographs. Boxes, closets, and trunks. I left no stone unturned, driven by a relentless determination to uncover the truth. Hours passed, the afternoon sun slowly giving way to the encroaching darkness. I was about to give up, convinced that I'd reached a dead end. But then, in the back of a dusty old trunk, tucked beneath a pile of yellowed linens, I found it. A small, leather-bound diary. Its pages yellowed with age, its cover worn and cracked with time. It looked ancient, like it had been waiting for someone to discover it for decades. The leather was supple, like butter. The diary was written in elegant cursive, the ink faded, but still legible. It was written by my great-grandmother, Eleanor, Grandpa Joe, and Aunt Ethel's mother. As I flipped through the pages, I realized that this wasn't just a record of daily life, a mundane account of household chores and social engagements. It was a confession. A confession of secrets, of desires, of betrayals. A confession that revealed a dark secret about our family history, a secret that had been buried for generations. A secret that could shatter everything we thought we knew about ourselves, about our family, about our past. A secret that might explain Ethel's sudden disappearance. And after the further that I got into the book, the more I understood why Ethel was so upset. All those secrets were hidden for years. The past had revealed itself. I could see the past that lay before me. Part 5, The Truth. The words on the yellowed pages swam before my eyes, each sentence a hammer blow to my carefully constructed reality. The diary revealed that Eleanor, my great-grandmother, had not been the virtuous, long-suffering wife I had always imagined. She had had an affair. The man was a traveling musician, a charismatic charmer with a guitar and a voice that could melt the coldest heart. He came to Harmony Creek every summer, playing at the local dances and town gatherings. And Eleanor, trapped in a loveless marriage with a stern, unyielding farmer, had fallen deeply, desperately in love with him. The diary then went on to confess an even more shocking truth. My Grandpa Joe wasn't actually my great-grandfather's son. He was the son of the musician. A child born out of wedlock, conceived in secret trysts and forbidden passion. A living lie, a secret that had been carefully guarded for 80 years. The diary ended abruptly, the last entry filled with guilt, remorse, and a desperate plea for forgiveness. I closed the book, my hands shaking, my mind reeling. The weight of the secret, the magnitude of the betrayal, threatened to crush me. Grandpa Joe wasn't who we thought he was. He was the product of a secret affair, a living testament to a hidden past, a man who has lived his whole life based on a lie. And Aunt Ethel had just discovered the truth after finding this diary, shattering her world in the process. It all made sense now. Ethel's cryptic note, Grandpa Joe's evasiveness, the unsettling atmosphere in the house, the sadness. Everything clicked into place, like pieces of a shattered puzzle finally coming together. But where did that leave us? Where did it leave Grandpa Joe? Was he going to be okay with these new revelations? Just as I was wrestling with these questions, my phone rang, shattering the silence. It was my mom, her voice tight with worry. "Annie, have you seen Ethel?" She called me earlier, sounding distraught. She left a note saying she was going away for a while, that she needed to clear her head. I'm so worried. What's going on? That's when it hit me, the realization striking me with the force of a physical blow. Ethel hadn't just run away, overwhelmed by the weight of the secret. She'd gone to find the musician, the man who was actually my grandpa's father. She was running, and it made no sense to me. Driven by a renewed sense of purpose, I grabbed my keys and ran back to Grandpa Joe, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to tell him the truth, to help him understand, to offer him whatever comfort I could. The secrets had to stop. "Grandpa," I said, kneeling beside his chair, taking his hand in mine. "I know about the diary, and I know about your real father. I know about Eleanor and the musician." His eyes widened, a look of shock and disbelief spreading across his face. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He just stared at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear, relief, and a profound sense of loss. "We're going to find him, Grandpa," I said, squeezing his hand tightly. "We're going to find Ethel. We're going to find the truth, no matter what it takes." A single tear rolled down his cheek, tracing a path through the wrinkles on his face. "You really are your father's daughter, Annie," he whispered, a faint smile gracing his lips. "Always looking for the truth. Just be careful what you find. Some things are better left buried." The cake lay forgotten on the coffee table, the candles unlit, the celebration abandoned. This wasn't going to be a birthday celebration. This was going to be a quest for the truth, a journey into the heart of our family's hidden past. A journey that would change everything. It started with finding Joe's biological father. The weight of our fate would fall on Ethel. And we were ready.